Hi, I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. Cleanup continues all across Louisiana after Category 4 Hurricane Laura made landfall in Cameron Parish early August 27th. It's the strongest hurricane to make landfall in Louisiana since 1856. Laura left a swath of destruction from southwest Louisiana up through Natchitoches to the Arkansas state line. This entire show is dedicated to bringing you the untold stories of damage to agriculture across the state. We begin where the storm made landfall, southwestern Louisiana, where Cameron and Calcasieu Parish farmers and ranchers prepared for the worst. Water splashes with each step these cattle take. In the distance behind them, you see a home damaged by wind. This one shot shows you what Hurricane Laura brought to Cameron Parish: water and wind. But it does not tell the whole story. For that, you need a lifelong resident.
I'm glad this picture made it.
Like Cameron Parish Farm Bureau President James Bozo Cox.
J.W. Carter Rice Plantation. That was back when the rice first came here. And you can see, looking at this just down here in this area, there's no trees.
This is where Cox's mother's home used to be. He just spent about $20,000 converting it into an office.
You know, it was built plenty to code. And we come here and you see it.
There's nothing to see because Laura's wind swept it away. You see where that wood is on the floor?
That was the wall. The door was over there.
Nearly nothing Cox has is where it's supposed to be, except his cattle.
This land right here, we're 21 foot above sea level.
He moved them here the Sunday before Hurricane Laura made landfall. Cox remembers that this land did not flood 15 years ago for Hurricane Rita.
And if this ridge goes underwater here, you can kiss Lake Charles and DeQuincy goodbye.
In the dry days before Laura's landfall, Cox cut and baled as much hay as he could.
We put it in this hay barn here that was in back of me because we just started putting hay in it, and we figured that was going to be a good place for it. All filled tubing with a roof. We're waiting to get underneath the hay. Everything's great. Well, we was wrong.
This is what's left. You can see where that oil field pipe collapsed.
We got the 2 tractors out this morning. My wife's car's still in there. I got to cut it out. My backhoe's in there and another trailer. You know, it's just, you know, it hit us with some stuff that we was not expecting.
1 o'clock, it started, and then it stayed pretty intense.
Calcasieu Parish Farm Bureau President Willie Danos says what he did not expect was that his house would remain in Laura's eye wall for 3 hours straight. During the storm, he and his son went into the attic to brace a wall that Laura was blowing inward.
Well, about an hour later, we went back again because we was getting substantial amount of more water coming in, and that's when the plywood started coming off.
This is just some of the damage Laura did to Danos's home. Danos also has cattle. The wind blew his hauling trailer into the backyard. Not his, 4 houses down. And his hay barn suffered the same fate as Cox's.
There's not a barn left. These old barns, new barns, it was kind of non-discriminatory. It basically just took them all out. So the area took quite a hit in this Iowa, the blue area.
Most everything with a tin, there was a metal structure, it's either gone or demolished or just about beyond repair.
These pine trees help tell the story of the wind. Each of them snapped in half, not twisted like in a tornado, but snapped. While timber is not a big ag industry here, farmers do grow rice in Calcasieu and Cameron parishes. The farmer did not get to finish harvesting in this field in Cameron Parish before Laura hit. Most did, like in this field right at the Calcasieu-Cameron Parish line. But even harvested rice put away to dry in a bin was not safe from Laura.
Some of the farmers had some tops pulled off of their bins, so it's quite a shame that they went through the expense of making this crop, harvesting the crop, and then now it's in the bins, and I'm just not sure what type of coverage they have on that.
And with power lines and poles lying flat on the highways, even the bins still standing do not have power to run the fans needed to dry freshly harvested rice.
If it wasn't dry and you have no power, you got to get air moving through it or else it's going to all be stack burnt.
Both Danos and Cox know the only way to stay in agriculture in southwestern Louisiana is to learn from each storm.
Take good notes of what happened and what you could have done to lessen it, which we did for Rita, so that helped some. And if you don't want to do that, I hate to say it, pack your stuff and leave, because we are going to be continually facing with this. It's a challenge.
Both Cox and Danos have places to stay while they salvage what's left in their homes and of their homes. To help those farmers and ranchers impacted by Hurricane Laura, the Louisiana Farm Bureau Foundation has established a disaster relief fund. This is a way for those of you in other states who want to help but cannot make the trip here can actually help. All of the money raised by the Louisiana Farm Bureau Foundation Disaster Relief Fund will go to those farmers and ranchers who are fixing fences, grain bins, poultry houses, and hay barns. To make a donation, send a check made out to Louisiana Farm Bureau Foundation Disaster Relief Fund to this address on your screen: Louisiana Farm Bureau Foundation Disaster Relief Fund, P.O. Box 95004, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, zip 70895-9004. You can also find more information about the fund on the Louisiana Farm Bureau's website, lafarmbureau.org, and we'll have a link on our website at twilatv.org. Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry Dr. Mike Strain took to the sky to get a bird's eye view of the damage shortly after Hurricane Laura hit. As a veterinarian, part of his trip was to search for livestock. That view from the sky shows the complete destruction that happened along the Louisiana coast.
Hurricane Laura was the most powerful storm ever to hit Louisiana. We had sustained winds at the coast in excess of 150 miles an hour. We had areas where we measured the tidal surge inland in Cameron Parish at over 17 feet. Now you think about a 17-foot wall of water. The communities of Creole there at Holly Beach and in Cameron were devastated. Probably less than 1 in 5 structures remain. Most structures are completely destroyed. We flew the coast as soon as the winds got low enough where we could get aircraft in the air, and we surveyed the damage in some of the areas like with the cattle, and in the area what they call Johnson Bayou, which is on the coast between there and Lake Charles, where we expected to find over 600 head of cattle that were there. We found 5. We found 4 horses. We didn't find anything else. And also a tremendous amount of structural damages. The hay barns completely destroyed. We have farmers that not only have lost a great deal of their crops, but they also lost their homes, they lost their barns, they lost a lot of their equipment. And so now what we are doing, we are working, trying to stabilize what we can. Some of the issues that all we are dealing with is in our rice bins to make sure that they have generators if they don't have electricity in order to dry the rice that's there. The sugar cane, that was knocked down pretty hard, but we think that we will be able to recover most of the cane itself. We will lose a little bit of sugar because it takes energy. Sugar is a stored energy. It will take energy for the plant, to recover. If you look what happened in our cotton, about 40% of the cotton, the bolls were open. And what that means is when you think about the cotton boll being open, you can see the cotton. So we're going to have some issues there with cotton. They may affect the yield and also the quality. With corn and beans, we were just beginning to harvest corn and beans across the state. When you think about this storm, what you have to look at is an extraordinarily powerful storm that had hurricane force winds all the way to Shreveport. And it came in at the Louisiana Texas junction. It came up at the east side, came up through Lake Charles. A lot of devastation in Lake Charles, devastation to our oil and gas facilities as well. And then it went up through that portion of the state all the way into central Louisiana, through Alexandria, through Natchitoches, through Manning, all the way up, close to Shreveport and Keachai. People had damage that far. And so the immediate needs, comes how do we get fuel in areas that don't have accessibility, don't have electricity, don't have fuel, to keep the generators running, to keep the cooling fans on the chicken houses. So a lot of people are helping. I've been working closely with the Farm Bureau Federation on getting information from the farmers that what we need to do, also working with them to try to stabilize everything that we can as we work together.
The Department of Agriculture and Forestry has opened an emergency hotline for Louisiana poultry farmers who have an emergency need for fuel to keep those poultry houses cool. That hotline number is 225-952-8158. You can also find that by visiting our website at twilatv.org. While much of the state's sugarcane crop grows east of where Hurricane Laura made landfall, the winds and water still took a toll. TWILA's Neil Melanson traveled to Iberia Parish, where one farmer saw all of his cane go underwater.
The sound of this water pump running has been with Ricky Gosselin for more than a week. Almost all of his 3,000 acres of sugarcane was flooded in the wake of Hurricane Laura. Because of the way the winds blew, he actually flooded after the storm had passed.
About 3, 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, the surge came in. We thought we had it. We thought we had it whipped, and but 4 o'clock it came in, and it came in with a vengeance. Not quite as bad as Rita, 4 to 5 foot, but now we're faced with challenging efforts to remove the water from inside our levees and amongst our newly planted cane.
Ricky said it's not just that the cane is exposed to salt water, as the salinity right now seems low. It's that pumping the water out means pumping money out of his farm.
We're moving water out. The tide is working with us, but it's going to be a long road ahead. Several million gallons of water that's on several thousand acres of land, and not only on our land, but where our farm's located. The city of Louisiana Parish drains here to the bottom. We're at the lower end. Really good farmland, but low land that holds water, and it's next to the commercial canal and the coastal canal, and it's set right in the industrial sector of the port. Most of our land that's flooded. So we're faced with challenges with debris that is floated in our crop. That's going to be problematic for the harvest season with butane bottles, logs, and other debris. But currently we're doing everything we can to save the crop. And people don't realize, but we're looking at the 2020 crop that's due to harvest in 30 days, and 2021 crops 95% completed planted. So we're fighting 2 years of crop. And
it bends, but we don't break.
Northwest of Ricky is Eddie Lewis's farm, where cane lodging is the problem. Hours of sustained winds, sometime reaching 65 miles an hour, has put a permanent lean into the stalks. Lewis said it was a really good-looking crop before the hurricane.
We was probably about 65–70% finished with planting season, and everything was going pretty well. The cane was pretty straight, so it was able to get in the fields in and out pretty quick and put some cane in the ground. But with Laura hitting, kind of bent the cane up a good bit. So we're going to have to kind of change things up a little bit, maybe do some automatic billet planting.
Jim Harper, president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau and a cane grower himself, commiserated with Lewis. He said all the cane on his farm in Cheneyville is lodged, but no matter the crop, farmers affected by the storm are in for a difficult season.
Farmers always have a lot of sympathy from one another because we've all experienced when someone goes through this. And while we did have rain and a lot of wind, we're fortunate compared to Southwest Louisiana. So, we feel a lot of sympathy for them, and it's heartfelt, and we want to do everything we can to help these farmers.
Mike Melanson in St. Martinville was still seeing rain on his cane days after the storm. However, when we caught up with him, he was more worried about some of his fellow farmers in the northern part of the state.
Well, they have some power issues, and they also have fuel issues, and they need to run some generators to take care of their poultry houses. So we're rigging up some things to bring up there tomorrow morning, kind of as a quick fix. Hopefully it's something that doesn't cause huge problems for them, but we're going to take the fuel component out of their problems. I hear they have problems with getting feed as well to their chickens, but we'll fix one issue. We'll get their generators running and hopefully keep them afloat for a little while longer.
Much of the sugarcane in Louisiana looks like the cane here at Eddie Lewis's field. Lodged, that means laid over from Hurricane Laura's winds. Now, it's not only going to be a problem when harvest begins, but as it rolls along, because the delay it's going to cause means that sugarcane will be exposed to things like frost, which could be a real problem as harvest will continue well into December and into January if the weather doesn't hold up. Reporting from Youngsville, I'm Neil Melanson.
Sugarcane harvest, also known as grinding season, usually begins at the end of September. While the damage to crops like sugarcane, rice, and soybeans in South Louisiana was bad, it was not the only industry impacted. The community of Forest Hill, just south of Alexandria, was also hit hard by Hurricane Laura. It is home to hundreds of nurseries tucked away in the piney woods of central Louisiana. As TWILA's Carl Wiggers shows us, the cleanup at the nurseries may be done, but the long-term losses may take time to see.
In Forest Hill, you don't have to look far to find the nursery full of plants. Now, thanks to Hurricane Laura, sites like this are just as common. Samantha Young at Doug Young Nursery is just one of many who are picking up the pieces after the storm.
So far, what we've seen, loads and loads of trees down. The problem with the trees being down, they're either on lines, they're on plants, they're on sprinkler systems.
The story was the same just down the road for Candy Ray at JR Trees.
We had, I think, 4 or 5 big oaks and pines down in the middle of our crops. When the tree hits the plants, they're pretty much done for. I mean, little shrubs and things you can save, but for a tree, there's not a lot of recouping on that, and we've invested 3 to 5 years on a lot of these trees. So I think we're at about $30,000 in just product damage, not irrigation, not labor.
We have ground cover that's been ripped up. Greenhouses have been destroyed, kind of twisted. The plastic has been removed from them. You can kind of see behind me where we've started cleanup, but it's nowhere near finished. There's a lot of cleanup that still needs to be done. We also have housing for our employees, and some of the housing has been somewhat destroyed. We're very fortunate that we didn't have as much damage to the actual products as could have been, but there is also damage that we may not see till later on. So it's not, I can't really put a price tag on anything. It's not $100 worth of damage though. It's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage and months of recovery.
That recovery began for Young and Ray as soon as the storm passed with help from the Louisiana Nursery and Landscape Association.
Yeah, the minute the hurricane came, LNLA was sending group messages, what do you need in Forest Hill? There were generators up here the next day. I know for sure Bracey's and Windmill Nursery donated generators for us to use. Our industry really pulls together. Nursery people are really close in a tight-knit group. There's no competition. We all love each other and we take care of each other. And because of that, we're able to bounce back.
You know, give us a couple weeks, let us get back on our feet. We're still here and we'll come back stronger, we always do. And as far as our community, we're working together to try to lift everybody up.
For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Carl Wiggers reporting.
Along with cleaning up their nursery, Young and her family also helped prepare food to feed their community and the electrical workers helping to restore power in the area. Just up the road in Pollock, Louisiana, the Grant Walker 4-H Educational Center, better known as Camp Grant Walker, received significant damage. The 4-H camp's Facebook page shared a post with these pictures showing the damage to some bunkhouses, cabins, and large pavilion on the property. The post says, quote, "We are so thankful everyone is okay and restoration is already well underway," end quote. It goes on to say the camp will be rebuilt better than before and will continue to serve as the proud home of many Louisiana 4-H events in the future. There's a fund set up through the LSU Foundation to help rebuild Camp Grant Walker. If you'd like to see how you can help, head over to our website at twilatv.org. Still to come on TWILA, ranchers in South Louisiana get a helping hand from our neighbors in Texas. Stay with us. A little help goes a long way, and through this recovery from Hurricane Laura, farmers and ranchers in southwest Louisiana are going to need a lot of help. As TWILA's Tammy Arender shows us, that help is already arriving from our neighbors in the Lone Star State.
Here in Anahuac, Texas, farmers are helping farmers across state lines. Bales of hay, other supplies headed across to Vinton and Calcasieu and Cameron parishes in Louisiana to say thank you for when they helped back during Hurricane Harvey. Deep in the heart of southeast Texas, Nick Cart and Ronnie Brown busy loading up hay.
We're loading hay to bring to Louisiana for some cattle that are stacked up on some high ground, you know, until the producers can get down south and, you know, survey their fences and whatnot.
It could have very well been right here, so I'm happy to donate whatever I can and help those people out over there with whatever they need that I have.
Cart is a Region 3 field inspector for the Texas Department of Agriculture. He remembers the devastation of Hurricane Harvey in this area of Texas in 2017.
I picked up the phone and started calling some producer friends of mine, you know, that I knew all my life from Louisiana, and you know, it's just, it didn't stop. The help started coming, you know, and I'm sitting around Thursday evening thinking, you know, it's time to do something for them.
So with donations from Texas farmers and ranchers like Brown, hay and help are on the way. CART is also taking post and other fencing materials donated by M&J Fertilizer of Winnie, Texas. For those receiving it in Louisiana, it's a welcome sight.
They have to have, hay and feed and stuff and help. People from Texas that's been helping us a lot.
And just getting the materials to the cattle in Calcasieu Parish is a challenge. Roads and ranches still covered with debris and down power lines. CART finally reaches Gray Ranch in Benton, Louisiana. Kent Ledoux is the ranch manager.
A massive wind, as you can imagine, came on shore at 150 miles an hour, and it devastates just about everything.
So this delivery from the folks in the Lone Star State isn't just of barbed wire and fence post, but of love and friendship.
The friendships that we achieve and grow in the agricultural industry, probably some of the strongest bonds we have.
In Calcasieu Parish, I'm Tammy Arender for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
CART says the Texas Ag Department and AgriLife Extension are coordinating a drive for more fencing materials for those impacted by Hurricane Laura in Louisiana. Still to come, photos and stories from social media in the aftermath of Hurricane Laura. Stay with us. This week, all across social media, we've seen heartbreaking photos and videos of the damage Hurricane Laura caused when she ripped across the state. But in addition to the countless images of broken buildings and homes, we've also seen the goodness of friends and neighbors helping each other throughout this disaster. Special thanks to Kristen Oaks-White for putting that piece together. That does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll continue our coverage of Hurricane Laura and how our state's farmers and ranchers are uniting to help each other through it. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you'll find all of these stories and more on our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications there. For all of us here at TWILA, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.